Why you feel broke even while investing. You did what everyone told you to do. You started investing. You opened the account, you put money in every month, you watched videos, you followed advice. On paper, you're doing everything right. So why do you still feel broke? That's the question nobody talks about. Because investing is supposed to make you feel secure. It's supposed to make you feel like you're getting ahead. But for many people, the opposite happens. You invest and somehow feel even more pressure. Here's the truth. Investing does not fix a broken financial structure. And if your foundation is weak, investing can actually make you feel worse, not better. Let's go deeper. Imagine two people. Both earn the same income, both invest the same amount every month. But one of them feels calm, stable, in control. The other feels stressed, restricted, constantly worried about money. Same strategy, completely different reality. Why? Because investing is only one part of the system, and most people focus on it while ignoring everything else. The first hidden problem is margin. Margin is the space between what you earn and what you spend. If that space is small, every dollar you invest feels heavy. It feels like you're sacrificing your present life for something distant and uncertain. And when something feels like sacrifice, your brain resists it. You start questioning it, you start delaying it, you start reducing it, and eventually, you stop. Not because investing is wrong, because your system can't support it. Now think about this. If your expenses take 90% of your income and you try to invest 10%, you have zero room for error. One unexpected bill, one bad month, one small mistake, and everything collapses. That's not investing. That's pressure. Real investing requires breathing room. Now let's talk about something deeper, the emotional weight of investing. When you invest, you are choosing your future over your present. And that sounds good logically, but emotionally, it creates tension. Because your brain lives in the present. It wants comfort now. It wants reward now. It wants certainty now. But investing gives you none of that. It gives you delayed results. And delayed results feel invisible. So you keep putting money in, but your life doesn't change. You still go to work. You still pay bills. You still feel limited. So your brain starts asking, what's the point? And that question is dangerous, because once you start questioning, consistency breaks. Now here's another layer. You're looking at the wrong scoreboard.
You open your bank account and see less money, so your brain says, I have less. But you don't look at your investments. You don't look at your net worth. You only look at what's immediately available. So even though your total wealth is increasing, your visible money is decreasing, and that creates a psychological illusion of being broke. Now imagine this. You invest $1,000. Your bank account drops by $1,000, but your investment account increases by $1,000. Net effect? Zero loss. But emotionally, it feels like loss, because you can't easily spend your investments, so your brain doesn't treat them as real money. That's why people feel broke while investing. Now let's go even deeper. Lifestyle structure. Most people don't redesign their life when they start investing. They keep the same expenses, same habits, same environment, and then they try to add investing on top. So instead of building a system, they create tension. They stretch themselves thinner. And over time, that tension turns into stress, and stress leads to inconsistency. Now here's something most people ignore. Your financial system must match your behavior. If your system requires perfect discipline, it will fail, because humans are not consistent. You need a system that works even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. Now let's talk about time. Investing is slow in the beginning, very slow. The first months feel meaningless. The first years feel small. You check your account and think, that's it? Because the growth is not dramatic, it's gradual. And gradual growth doesn't feel exciting. But here's the truth. Slow growth is the foundation of big growth. But most people quit before they reach that point because they expect results too early. Now add comparison. You go online and see someone making huge returns, fast money, big wins.
And suddenly your slow progress feels like failure, even though it's actually correct. Because you're comparing long-term strategy to short-term outcomes, and that creates frustration. Now let's talk about identity. If you still see yourself as someone who is trying to survive, investing will feel like risk. But if you see yourself as someone who is building wealth, investing becomes natural. Same action, different meaning. Your identity defines your experience. Now let's go deeper again. There is something called financial fragmentation. Your money is scattered. Some in checking, some in savings, some in investments. But you don't see it as one system. So it feels disconnected. And when things feel disconnected, you feel less control. And less control creates stress. Now imagine the opposite. Everything is structured. You know where your money goes. You know how much you spend. You know how much you invest. Suddenly, the same numbers feel different.
Because clarity reduces anxiety. Now, here's another hidden truth. You are overvaluing liquidity. You want access to your money. You want flexibility. So when you invest, you feel like you're losing access, and that creates discomfort. But that's actually the point. Investments are meant to be less accessible because that's what protects them from being spent. Now, let's shift. Solutions. First, build margin. Not later, now. Reduce unnecessary expenses. Increase your gap, even slightly. That gap changes everything. Second, create a buffer. Emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses. This removes fear because now unexpected events don't destroy your system. Third, automate investing. No decisions.
No emotions, just consistency. Fourth, track net worth, weekly or monthly. See the full picture, not just your cash. Fifth, simplify. Too many accounts, too many strategies, too much complexity creates confusion. Simple systems work better. Now let's go even deeper. There is a mindset shift most people never make. Stop thinking, I'm losing money when I invest. Start thinking, I'm storing money for later. Because that's what investing is, delayed usage, not loss. Now here's a powerful question. If you had no access to your investments for 10 years, would you still invest? If the answer is no, your strategy is emotional, not logical. Now let's talk about control. Feeling broke is not always about money, it's about control. If you don't feel in control, you feel poor, even with high income.
Even with investments, control creates stability. Now, another layer. Your environment matters. If everyone around you spends freely, investing will feel restrictive. If everyone around you builds wealth, investing feels normal. Environment shapes behavior. Now, let's go deeper. Patience is a skill, and investing forces you to develop it. Because without patience, you will constantly change strategies, you will chase trends, you will break consistency, and that destroys results. Now, here's something important. You don't need to invest more, You need to last longer, because time is the most powerful factor in investing, not amount. Consistency over time beats intensity. Now, let's talk about the long-term view. In the beginning, investing feels like nothing. In the middle, it feels slow. At the end, it feels powerful. But most people never reach the end.
Because they quit in the beginning. Now let's go deeper again. There is also fear. Fear of losing money, fear of making mistakes, fear of not doing enough. And fear creates hesitation, and hesitation breaks consistency. Now here's the shift. Accept imperfection. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need perfect strategy. You need consistency. Now let's talk about freedom. People think investing gives freedom, but investing alone doesn't. Structure does. Because if your expenses are high, even large investments won't feel enough. But if your expenses are controlled, even smaller investments create freedom. Now here's the final layer. You don't feel broke because you're investing. You feel broke because your system is not aligned with your goals. And once you align them, everything changes. You stop feeling pressure. You start feeling progress.
You stop doubting. You start trusting. You stop reacting. You start controlling. Final thought. There are two paths. One where you earn, spend, invest a little, and feel constant stress. Another where you structure, control, invest consistently, and feel calm. Same income, different system. And in the end, the system always wins. Because money follows structure. And once your structure is strong, you stop feeling broke, even before you become rich.
And there is another layer most people never see. The gap between logical understanding and emotional reality. Logically, you know investing is good. You know it builds wealth. You know it's the right move. But emotionally, it doesn't feel rewarding. And when something doesn't feel rewarding, your brain slowly starts resisting it. This is why knowledge alone is not enough. You can understand everything about money and still struggle, because behavior is driven by feeling, not logic. Another important point is that investing exposes your financial weaknesses. If your spending is uncontrolled, investing highlights that. If your income is unstable, investing makes that stress more visible. If your system is weak, investing doesn't hide it, it reveals it. And that's uncomfortable, because now you can't ignore the problem anymore. Another layer is control versus restriction. If investing feels like restriction, you will eventually break it. But if it feels like control, you will continue. The action is the same, but the meaning is different. So the real question is not, are you investing? The real question is, how does investing feel in your system? Because that determines whether you continue or quit. Now let's talk about flexibility. One reason people feel broke while investing is because they remove flexibility from their life. They lock money away without creating room in their daily finances, so every unexpected situation feels like a threat. Flexibility reduces stress. Without flexibility, even small problems feel big. Another hidden issue is timing mismatch. Your expenses are immediate. Your investments are long-term. So your brain constantly feels the pressure of today while the benefit of investing is far away. This creates a constant psychological imbalance. You feel the cost now. You don't feel the reward yet. And that gap creates discomfort. Another thing to understand is that progress in investing is not linear. Some months you gain, some months you lose. Some periods feel like nothing is happening. And this unpredictability creates doubt, because humans prefer certainty. But investing requires tolerance for uncertainty. Now let's go deeper.
There is also the problem of over-optimization. You try to find the best strategy, the perfect portfolio, the highest returns, and in doing so, you create stress. Because now every decision feels important. Every movement in the market feels personal. And that pressure makes the process exhausting. Simple strategies reduce stress. Complex strategies increase it. Another layer is financial noise. News, opinions, trends, predictions. Everyone is saying something different. And when you listen to all of it, you become uncertain. Uncertainty leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to inconsistency. And inconsistency destroys results. Another important truth is that investing is boring by design. And boring is good, because boring is repeatable. Excitement leads to mistakes. Consistency builds results. Now let's talk about expectations again. Many people expect investing to change their life quickly, but real investing works quietly. It builds in the background. And because it's quiet, it feels like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You just don't see it yet. Another hidden factor is lack of visible milestones. In most areas of life, progress is clear. You finish a task, you see a result. But in investing, progress is delayed and abstract, so it's harder to stay motivated. That's why tracking matters. Not to obsess, but to remind yourself that progress exists. Another layer is lifestyle pressure. As your income grows, your environment often changes. Better areas, higher expectations, more expensive norms. So even if you invest more, your lifestyle grows too. And the feeling of being not enough stays. Now think about this. If your expenses grow at the same speed as your income, you will always feel stuck, no matter how much you invest. Now let's go deeper again. There is also the issue of partial commitment. You invest sometimes, you skip sometimes. You adjust based on mood. And this inconsistency creates weak results, which leads to frustration, which leads to stopping. Consistency is what makes investing work, not intensity. Another important idea is delayed confidence. You don't feel confident at the beginning because you haven't seen results yet. But confidence grows from experience, and experience comes from time. So you have to continue before you feel ready. Now let's talk about pressure. If you invest too aggressively relative to your income, you create pressure. If you invest too little, you feel like you're not doing enough. So the key is balance. A level that is sustainable, not perfect, sustainable, because sustainability beats perfection. Now here's another layer. You are not just managing money, you are managing behavior over time. And behavior is affected by stress, energy, environment, and habits. So if your life is chaotic, your finances will be too. Stability in life creates stability in money. Now let's go deeper again. There is also fear of missing out. You see others making fast money, and you feel like you're doing it wrong. So you change strategy. You chase trends, and that breaks your system. Staying consistent is harder than switching, but it's also more effective. Another hidden truth is that you don't notice slow improvement. Your situation improves gradually, but because it's gradual, it feels invisible. And what feels invisible feels insignificant. But over time, it becomes massive. Another factor is patience fatigue. At the beginning, patience feels manageable, but over years, it becomes harder because you want results, you want confirmation, you want proof, and when it's slow, you start doubting. That's normal. But continuing despite that is what creates results. Now let's bring this deeper. You feel broke while investing because your brain is focused on the present.
and investing is focused on the future. That mismatch creates tension, and tension feels like stress. But once you understand it, you can manage it. You can separate feelings from facts. You can continue even when it feels slow. And that's the difference. Final extension. You don't need more information. You don't need a better strategy. You don't need perfect timing. You need alignment between your income, your expenses, your behavior, and your goals. Because when everything is aligned, investing feels natural. When it's not, it feels forced. And forced systems don't last. So the goal is not just to invest. The goal is to build a life where investing fits easily, where it doesn't create pressure, where it doesn't feel like sacrifice, where it becomes part of your identity. And when that happens, you stop feeling broke, even while investing, because now you're not just putting money away, you're building something, and you can feel it.
Hello
That's
everyone,
all.
welcome to the
Subscribe
team.
and
I'm
like,
thrilled
and
to
I
have
will
you on
post
board.
even more
Let's achieve
interesting
great
and
things
useful
together.
videos about finance.